All right. Greetings to all. Welcome, Dorsey's Resource. We're live now officially. Before we get started, you guys know as I normally do, I'm going to give a disclaimer. This video is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her own homework and research into the matter being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. In any event, you need to seek a competent professional. It is encouraged you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource is not liable or responsible for any misuse of this information. These are simply my opinions on the topic. This also, my political views do not represent any affiliates of Dorsey's Resource or anyone that I know, just FYI, by the way, on a side note. With that being said, all rights are reserved. Greetings. I have someone in the chat. Divin Ware says, hi, Dorsey, greetings to you. Big shout out to you, Divin Ware. Thank you for joining. Excuse me if I'm mispronouncing your name. Thank you for joining the chat once again. I'm back. I want to do a video about why TDA accounts are real, and I wanted to go into here's why. I found some notes I'm going to read or kind of go over. I am on a time limit, so you know, as you guys know, as usual, I'm going to try to be quick. So when you hear me talk fast, go over stuff, it's because I'm limited on time. But to jump right in, the reason why, if you guys remember the movement that broke out a couple summers ago where people were using their alleged secret account to pay their bills and stuff, I want to go into the reasons why it was real. Now, I also shared a post recently on my personal Facebook account too about something. I won't go into necessarily the details right now, but I did temporarily block several people out in particular. That was just on my personal Facebook page. But I want to reveal some things, and rest in peace to Nipsey Hussle. Just wanted to say that on the side note. I didn't know who he was. I didn't do a video on him yet. I wanted to let the man, you know, rest. More information is coming out. And you know, there's a lot of people doing videos already. I honestly, it's interesting. I used to rap years ago, and I think I heard of them in songs or whatever, but I was sleeping on them. So it looks like from my research that I did, he was doing work in the community. And you know, that's all I'll leave it at right there. And he was working on the Dr. Sebi documentary. Rest in peace to Dr. Sebi as well. And then if you know about the history behind Lisa Left Eye Lopez from the group TLC, what she was doing years ago, for those of you all who are really awake to the truth. And I actually mentioned her in maybe a couple videos I did in the past. I don't remember which one in particular, but I just wanted to say that on a side note. Once again, rest in peace to Nipsey and all of his loved ones. Condolences, you know, heartfelt throughout people in the conscious community, the hip-hop industry, etc. On a side note, okay, we had someone in the chat I just saw. Okay, Carnell Smith says, what's up, Dorsey? Greetings to you. Thank you for coming back again, Carnell Smith. I believe you were here last night. Thank you for joining. But to jump right in, why these payments were real, in my opinion, Devontae Robertson said, hey, bro, what's up? What's up, Devontae Robertson? Thank you for joining. These payments were going through PayPal originally after you verified the FRB process. There was a subscriber one time and some other people I know, I actually sent them the email to show evidence. I'll keep that video real low key because YouTube shut the guy's channel down who showed the evidence. He was from, he lived over here in the United States, but he was a foreigner. I'm not sure which country he was from. I don't remember, but his name was Ronald Renafort or something like that. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing it. But big shout out to him for sharing the information. I was able to download a couple videos from his channel before they shut his whole channel down. But he showed the evidence. I want to say this is legit. Top-notch people in the movement did know about him. At the time, we had Mike O'Brien, we had Triple Moore, Extra Light, Harvey Dent. You know, big shout out to all these people, you know, different perspectives. Willow Green are all sharing the information from different perspectives. Other people Levitate. A sister down in Florida, Goddess, I can't remember exactly, but she did do a video not too long ago. But just to get back, it was going through their website had a procedure in place. And I had even heard on a private conference call that an IT person that deals with information technology, computer techs, engineers said their system, PayPal system, would not be, if it wasn't real at one time, their system would not be set up for it. But it used to add on FRB Bank. Just to give you guys who weren't familiar with the movement at the time when I followed it, I heard that when the FBI, when it went too public, because it was something that was meant to be private, that the FBI put major pressure on PayPal. I hear the Federal Reserve as well. And that's when the Federal Reserve came out and did public relations damage control to try to say we don't use accounts for private citizens, XYZ, etc. But I was also told years ago on a side note that when people use the number from the back of the Social Security card, they used to go through without no reversals, without that return code R34, all that crap. You know, that's the way they're blocking you. Someone says, let me see, Elite 36 says, hey, Dorsey, big shout out to you, Elite 36. Thank you for joining the chat. The second note I got, the IRS master file. Some of you all are familiar with that information from the IRS. Show which companies are using your Social Security number, which tapping in. You have to do research on that because I am limited on time, but I'll kind of give you guys a brief background. I found out some years ago from studying the redemption information, you had to get this disk and the codes to decode your file. And it's real deep stuff they're doing with your Social Security number behind the scenes, where they'll have you listed as a corporation with owning a factory or doing business in a foreign island or whatever. And mind you, the Internal Revenue Service is under the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and there's different jurisdictions too. I went over last night, statutory and non-statutory jurisdiction. So I'll just leave it at that. I could probably do a separate video delving into that. Somebody says, Multi-Haystack says, hey, hiya Dorsey, greetings to you. You know, welcome. Thank you for joining. The number 3 thing is, I know a guy, I still do know this individual who has a broker that can look up your QSIP number. Now he does charge, and it was quite a bit, you know, by the way, I'll keep that private, you know, low key, you know, that's something that, you know, some individuals that do know me know about this legit. I've seen I saw the guy that has the connection. I saw his paperwork. It blew me away because it gave me confirmation. I hear Fidelity, TD, was it TD, Ameritrade or whatever, Merrill Lynch, these different companies, like a lot of different corporations that, you know, have routing numbers, like insurance companies or banks, for example. And I did give a disclaimer, so just showing reference, you guys can do your own research, but State Farm Insurance has its own routing number, by the way. 71 Warhawk says, hello Dorsey, good evening, I hope all is well. Thank you for joining 7100 Warhawk, appreciate it. Yes, all is good. I'm maintaining, trying to hang in there. My Maytier says, okay, let me go back to the chat. Maytre Yashir says, so what can you do with the QSIP if you find it, or whatever? That's $1 million question too, by the way, but just to keep it simple, to sum it up, because this stuff gets really intricate, and I was asking the same question myself. Mind you, it's just the connect I have. I still do research. I'm at a certain level in this information, in this movement too, by the way. And yes, the people high up at the top, it is controlled. Like, there's an elite group and I've identified from my personal research with my special unique skill set, there appears to be a small group of people that have like the A to Z information that's at the very top, and then they have people underlinks below them that they're basically controlling, like puppeteers on what they share. And that's what I believe, the same thing happening, that these small group of individuals are behind holding this reset up, by the way. But there is some stuff that is going on that they're working on, I don't doubt. But to kind of answer your question, Matrashir, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name in the chat, but very good question, though. Excellent question. I think from what I was asking my contact, that the way you would use that, it deals with you would somehow establish like a brokerage account through Treasury Direct. I'm just kind of giving you guys an idea. Or DTC, that stands for Depository Trust Corporation. Like, we know the DTC deals with participant numbers, and I hear Treasury Direct deals with QSIP numbers, but they're like interchangeable. And somehow you would similar to the cryptocurrencies, you would wire your funds once you can prove that you can verify or monetize your instrument, which is your birth certificate. It is a securities instrument. There was a lady out there saying this is not a registered security. No, I got confirmation it backs other bonds, because I went and did my research, and I have a friend who was a former stockbroker, also has someone else I know who is very well studied in the movement, who I would never mention his name on here publicly, that I know that shared this with me. And I also found some paperwork from years ago. I can't even tell you I remember where it's at exactly, but look up, you want to research information on CUSIP's Committee on Uniform Securities Identification Procedures, or Committee on Uniform Securities Identifying the Principal. Says the BC is all that. Yes, there's different processes too, by the way. There's this idea that there's just one particular method and there's a silver bullet. I'm not saying that there isn't a silver bullet, but you have to understand that the people at the top who are withholding this information, and one individual for this one private clandestine organization I was part of, has just come out all of a sudden. Like years ago, he had an audio teaching about the trust, but all of a sudden he's come out teaching information about the DTC like he's a boss. And I suspected this all along, that this information was coming from out west, because I had some information years ago. So I know that it appears as though they're holding back the information, because it's not that we're stupid and I've been told I'm really a brilliant person, but you know, the universities I was sharing with another friend of mine that's really brilliant, exceptionally smart, and I give him his credit where credit is due, and I said they only want to teach you the information that they want you to know. At these college universities, you're not learning the real information about the private sector. You're learning how to be a good slave on the public sector. Understand that. You got to delve deep into this stuff. This stuff gets real deep. As someone says, they always blocking. Yeah, they always, you got that right. They are hating. They're the biggest haters on the planet. Someone asked, you still have the black card? Yeah, I still have it. The numbers on there is kind of faded now, by the way, just FYI. I never got a chance to use it, but I did put it in an ATM machine at a particular bank that I bank with, and at the time it stated that the card was real, but there was a certain way how to use it, and we were told at the time it was certain individuals that violated the rules, that messed up, who caused basically everyone else to get held back. By the way, that I heard there was a guy who was using it to buy expensive sports cars, and he was reselling them. And this is all alleged. I can't tell you for sure. This was put on the audio. There still might be information on the internet. If you guys look up David Clarence and the information he had dealing with PTK and all of that, you still might be able to find stuff. But I heard allegedly another guy was buying computers on eBay or something, or reselling them on eBay, I mean. And I heard the Federal Reserve said they were going to make him pay that money back. I don't know how you would pay that back when it was being pulled from your exemption, but I heard that they allegedly put you through like an interview, a hardcore assessment process in order to get access to that. And then I also heard separately that at the time, which was separate from the black card, you had you can fill out an application to access a routing number that you could use to set off debt. Now, are they still allowing that? I don't know, but they might not admit that publicly, because this stuff was, I guess, meant to be private. But however, there's some other things I could go into, and they would explain that it's really shady when you guys have heard about what Wells Fargo did some years ago to kind of jump ahead, how it came out. If you guys remember, Wells Fargo was in the news for fake accounts they created using people's social security numbers. Remember that. Look it up. Remember, Wells Fargo was in the news, and then Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, with all these data breaches, they're using people's social security numbers. And then also you want to look up the old social security cards. Go on Yahoo or any search engine and look up. So a couple people said, yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember. Multi Haystack and Elite 36 says, yes, thank you for confirming. And I'm gonna get back to the other statement in the chat. I'm gonna try to read. So just, you know, bear with me. Like I said, I'm on a time frame. This is Q&A, so try to catch me when you can. Not as many people jumped in last night, so I wanted to get you guys some updated information. Just because they're blocking these accounts and you're getting reversals doesn't mean that these accounts were not real. And by the way, one of the accounts is actually working for me, but I just can't I can't go into the system and see which routing number that I use. But I do, one of them is working for me for something in particular. I'm not going to go into the details about it because the cabal, if they have minions and underlinks and gatekeepers who watch these videos and try to hate and basically do stuff to change things up, because they're the biggest haters on the planet. They want to see people suffer. They're you know, really control freaks and stuff. Follow the money trail. You got to follow the money trail. So when they control the money, you know, it leads to a lot of other things. They can control with jobs where you work at, your income, when the banks, if they control the banks, because the banks determine who gets small business loans, you know. And it was known for years, basically it was by design in the black community. They never wanted black people to have economic power. This is why they would give foreigners a tax incentive and loan for banks, while in a lot of minority communities across the country, you know, I mean, no disrespect in saying this, it's just a fact, why they can own gas stations, stores, and oil change shops, and collision shops, and auto shops, because it's historically known insurance companies and banks practice discriminatory practices against black people, you know. And that's why, unfortunately, you know, we have the problem situations that we do. You have street hustlers, people who wake up to the truth, who do care, will try to help out, but unfortunately they still might have attachments to the hood. And then there's a lot of haters going on, crabs in a barrel, stuff like that. So it hurts people in the community sometimes that are trying to help. You also have people behind the scenes that try to help, but you could be called a coon, or they think, you know, people don't have no idea. They just form these preconceptions sometimes. People got to watch that. Be hesitant to judge and understand the situation before you judge, and research and do your homework, because people are quick to pass judgment. Make it do an evaluation and assessment. That's why I always encourage you guys to please do your homework. But as my subscribers, to you guys have all of the power, by the way. So I wanted to jump back to the question, a statement somebody had mentioned in the chat. So let me scroll down. It says, A for V, there is a location called the IRS Technical Support Division of the Treasury UCC Contract Director in Washington, D.C. I think that's the place that may be important if it is proven to be real. Yes, you are correct. I kind of went over that unofficially last night when I mentioned that bond. If you watched the previous video that I did, Matier, based on the statement that you just made, I had helped a girlfriend some years ago when I was new to this information. I had this disc that was given to me by an older brother. He was married, and he was looking out for me. He helped me out, but he did tell me he had sources who were more knowledgeable than himself, but he couldn't reveal those sources. I think one of them, both of the brothers mentioned, one of the sources was in Waterford, Michigan. I don't know who they were because they didn't mention the name, but he was concerned. A big shout out to the brother. He helped me out, and he gave me this disc. So I studied it, and they had a lot of old information that was like considered old technology. So one of my former girlfriends, I helped her like with the paperwork and stuff. And she showed me, we were at a Borders Books many years ago in Dearborn, Michigan, before they closed it down. She showed me where they had removed something from her credit report. I can't remember which one of the bills. It may have been a couple bills, but I do know for sure it was one. She was excited. Like after that, she saw this was real, but it was like a bond, but it had like this contractual information where at the top it would say equality under the law is paramount, mandatory by law. Then it would have some other stuff dealing with the straw man. In the court system, it's called the lingus. That's the legal person. I didn't know at the time. They speak in an entirely different language, by the way. Looks like some other people jumped in the chat. I had to scroll down. Thank you for all you do, Andy Dukes. Appreciate you. Thank you for the shout out. MAG says, just a few minutes ago, got done watching a Tony King seminar that someone audio recorded, and I've been at this since June 17th, and this one recording just filled in some major blanks. If I have any success, I'll be sure to let you know. Appreciate it, definitely. Could you in some way upload info from the disk to torrent or Google Docs? I would have to be, that's a good question. I would have to be more advanced than that. I'm trying to figure out a way, Matier, to connect with some people who have some skill sets like that. I am familiar with that in particular, by the way, because you know, that's all I kind of leave it at. But I'm not really, I really need a team. I want to try to get your name, Maitre Shear. If I can get this other part of the chat windows popping up. Okay, I just wanted to read it again. He says, can you in some way upload and from the disc to torrent? Oh, that disc that I had, by the way. Yeah, it's a plethora of information, but at the time, you know, there's some things I would have to put in some major work. And it's based upon if you guys want to step up, and you know, that's where the donations and stuff like that could come in, because it takes resources. As you guys can obviously see, my channel is monetized, but unlike a lot of other YouTube channels, I don't have a Patreon account. I don't have a Cash Me app. I don't sell t-shirts. You know, other people in the past for other channels, I've seen people step up, you know, help them out, but it would take my subscribers, because I have a busy schedule, very busy schedule. I still study this information, and I'm at a certain level, and some things that are happening are very concerning. Not that I'm making any excuses. I would love to do these things. I was even considered at one time by one of my coworkers to be an activist. I never really looked at myself as an activist, or, you know, not sure what qualifies that. People have their own different terms, but if someone would like to step up and help or has some ideas, you can email me at Dorsey's Resource 2017 at gmail.com. Dorsey's Resource 2017 at gmail.com too. So this is not always about the money either, because I wouldn't have shared some of the critical information I did in the past. I didn't have to share it because time equals money. And being on a graveyard shift, especially at the age that I'm at now, I am getting up there in age, and I'm concerned about my health, stuff like that. It says, okay, I was looking to see if somebody else popped in. Says Maitre is here. Okay, well, let me know. You know, you can you know, try to get at me through my Facebook page at Dorsey's Resource. On Facebook, I have two different Dorsey's Resource pages, like two different images. One, I have more followers than the other. And then you can have, there's other ways to get at me as well. Like I would say generally it's best to shoot me the email, because like I said, I gotten a lot of inquiries in the past, but I don't have a staff of people, a team yet. But I want to get back on the topic to try to stay on track before I get ready to shut things down soon in a little bit, because I am on a time frame, by the way. So I went over okay, I talked about the guy, the broker. Okay, I know of a person in the legal profession at one time who successfully discharged payments using a check off a closed account. And this was actually a paralegal, by the way. This was shared to by a friend of mine here in Michigan. I won't say the guy's name because his phone, he would be blowing up. But he was telling me, even as a paralegal, he had to research it. He didn't know about some of the other redemption stuff, but he said that, like, he was helping this guy get a car, and what they would do, the instrument had a restrictive endorsement. Now, you have bankers and tellers, people that work at different banks, that don't know what a restrictive endorsement is. That's like, for example, if you make a payment to an apartment complex of places, it'll say for deposit only in the back, or it might say not for deposit, or it may say redeem in lawful money. Those are called restrictive endorsements. And there is information online. There's a legality behind that. This is dealing with the banking terminology, and the laws have different subjects and chapters that distinguish, that deals with the, like some deal with the UCC codes, some laws deal with the banks. You know, there's different subjects pertaining to that particular criteria, whatever it may be, by the way. So just, you know, keep that in mind, by the way, because this stuff gets really, really deep. But he was having success with the closed account. And what he told me is this car dealer or company, what they were doing was they would double dip and say they would try to process it as a regular check, and they had to do it manually. By the way, they weren't supposed to run it through the MICR system. MICR stands for magnetic ink character recognition. That's an acronym, a banking terminology. The MICR, you know how the bankers, you go to the bank and the teller, they'll take the check and it'll run through the machine, like for example, they'll take the check in, they'll say and they'll spin around. You know, that's the part of the MICR system. That stands for magnetic ink character recognition. See, I had to do research. How many people are talking about that? But look it up, so you guys know I'm not making this up. I do my research and I do study. So they weren't processing it correctly, and that's why payments were going back. But some corporations are greedy because the way they set this up, they've set this to try to keep people enslaved and trapped. Especially one of the reasons I was very upset about that event that I attended, and I felt like the individuals at the top should have came and held us by our hand, because there's gatekeepers and stuff we have to deal with in the public. Those of us who are still trying to transition and becoming free, that are more knowledgeable. And when people come to us for help, sometimes that help holds us back. When we need to elevate, we're already at the advanced stage. We're in the advanced classes, kind of like when you were in high school and you had accelerated courses, or you were in college and you took accelerated courses or accelerated classes. I'm at that stage where I need the other info, but I was stagnated when they just held back the information we needed to transition to the next level. And, you know, we were left for a number of years. So I had to go through that as well, by the way. Some of you all don't know that. And this is a very meticulous, the reason I explain this information the way that I do, so you guys clearly understand. This is what I've had to go through, you know, but hey, it is for what it is. Also, I know a guy who had a payment to the IRS. It was here in Michigan. It was, I guess, for state taxes, and it was stolen. There was a third-party debt collector working on behalf of the IRS, and they didn't credit the amount he owed. They actually stole his check, he was explaining. So he was able to track them down, figure out, because they had a P.O. box, but he was able to figure out their physical location. He told me about it. He went up there, and they zeroed out his account right on the spot. So if they were able to, they stole his instrument, mind you. So if he found the place, the physical building in person, because he told him he was going to sue them. And he told me by the time he left that day, they zeroed out his account. So you can't tell me a secret account doesn't exist, because where did that money come from if they just zeroed out his account on the spot? So they're double dipping too. You have that aspect going on. So I just wanted to share that, to all of this, to confirm that these accounts are real. By the way, contrary to popular belief that some of these gatekeepers and trolls and minions will have you believe, because they want to steer people away. They don't want people looking into this type of information, by the way. So, yep. So let me go to the other. I'm at the next set of notes right here. Okay. I also there was a story that a guy, I was listening to a conference call where a guy looked up his deceased brother's account, and he discovered it was still collecting interest. I think it was on one of the maybe Fidelity or Treasury Direct sites. I can't remember in particular, but he said this guy looked up his deceased brother's account and it was still collecting interest. So, you know, that's pretty deep. I also, some years back, I looked my BC up for what I thought on the Treasury, and it showed the amount my bond was trading at. Well, make a long story short, someone showed me not too long ago the information how to go on. I think it was Fidelity Investments. I can't remember for sure. They showed me, and it seemed like it had a negative amount. I didn't really understand that, but maybe that's not as good as information, but I'm just sharing from my personal experience, by the way, with you guys, why I believe these TDA accounts were real. And whether people call them secret accounts or private accounts, you look up the definition of the word secret or private. They both mean hidden. Some people like to play the semantics game, whether it's called a secret account or private account. And then the Treasury and the Federal Reserve are both related, by the way. So just want to keep that in mind. Hold on, be back, guys. Okay. All right. Thank you guys for holding. I'm back. Also, I discovered some years back in the business law, there's a class I was due to take it down the road, before I was so many classes away from getting my bachelor's degree. After I had gotten my associate's degree, I did take classes going towards my bachelor's degree, but I discovered there's a class called business and law that is related to this information. And a friend of mine's wife gave me her accounting book for her college studies. And I noticed in there it talked about marketable and non-marketable securities. Now, mind you, these are two different topics. There's a separate field of people who have brokerage securities license versus people who work in accounting. But there's a relation. Understand that, because there's people, this individual troll was trying to say, well, the Treasury and the Federal Reserve are both two different entities. They're not related. No, that's not the case. They're trying to throw you off. That's a gatekeeper who hasn't done their research and proper homework. And there's also a public side and there's a private side. Let's be clear on that. Because, matter of fact, to prove this, I just thought of offhand, you guys got me flowing tonight, flowing hard. Take out some Federal Reserve notes and notice on the FRNs it says this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Public and private. If there's no private sector, so you gotta really be careful listening to some of these gatekeepers. These gatekeepers, yeah, they'll really throw you off because they don't want you to know. Some of them are haters too. You know, they don't want you waking up. They want to keep you brainwashed and on the plantation. You know, I just proved to you on the currency that we carry around, many of us still. Interesting. And this was shared to me some years ago by a guy I knew from New Jersey, by the way. You know, so it's not rocket science. You could pull out any dollar bill and look that up. Legal tender for public and private debts. Also, more evidence why these accounts are real. This is the other set of notes I'm reading is number 4 because I got off track a little bit the previous page. But a third-party check verification merchant, which was Telecheck, looked up my SSN along with my routing numbers at the time. I was actually giving them different routing numbers. This was in 2017 to look up, by the way. And they could see in their database if I had an account there, and they confirmed based on my account, this was my social security number that I gave her. And she confirmed to me that I had an account at Treasury Direct for Parkersburg, Virginia, and for the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago or whatever, that my SSN. And she told me to even go more in depth to show this was legitimate because these gatekeepers will lie habitually. Telecheck, the representative, even went as far as to tell me, because I'm smart enough to ask this question. I said, ma'am, can you please tell me how are these type of accounts used for what type of transactions? Said one is used, you know, mainly they'll let you know if it's exclusively for electronic payments, ACH. If it's for just check payments, they'll tell you the difference. Nobody really talked about that if you followed the movement, but I was smart enough to ask that question. Not trying to brag, but it shows how brilliant I am. Just saying, to prove these accounts for a fact were real. This is not conspiracy theory. You know, I compiled a list of notes to go through. By the way, I could have done a screen capture video, but, you know, it's better. I won't get into the reasons why I don't do those sometimes when I go over this type of information. You guys might know it has something to do with the censorship. Years ago, SSN cards would say right below the number, it would say basically that it was an account. It would say account number, which I told you guys previously. Go on a search engine and document this. Do a screen capture video, by the way, before they try to scrub this offline, so you guys will have the evidence. Use Yahoo search engine, Bing, Google, type in social security card, old social security card images or photos, and look it up. I did it again because one time they took it down, but then they brought it back up. And it said account number. And they also are used. I had a bank tell me not too long ago, I won't say the name of this bank, but the teller told me if they can't verify your identity from like your driver's license or whatever other IDs you had, even your bank debit card, they use that for identification. She said they'll use your social security number. And I was just at another bank recently where the guy asked me my social security number because I had to pay my rent for my apartment complex, and he said he could look all my information up, which I shouldn't be using that. by the way. I won't, go into the details. I am aware, but, they've done some really wicked stuff. Just put it this way, that's, trying to keep some of us enslaved. If I had the right help, things could be a little bit different, but it is for what it is. Yeah, I'm just saying. Number 6. Yet the Federal Reserve Bureau of Public Debt put out a statement insisting that these accounts don't exist and that we're being lied to. Yeah, because they're using their corporations, which I mentioned, State Farm Insurance. Many of these corporations have a routing number too, by the way, like banks do. They're also banks. Think about that. Backdoor, they're double dipping, got two things going on. Like State Farm Insurance, for example, they got a routing number, as well as many other corporations. So they're acting as banks too. Why isn't the general public aware of that or knew about that if this thing wasn't real or didn't exist? Just saying, what they're saying is bogus. Yeah, trying to cover their tracks, because I believe, this did go to public. So now what they were doing at the time, they're waging a public relations campaign to try to hide this and cover up the wrongdoings about this. Remember, I went over Wells Fargo earlier. They were caught using people's social security numbers to open up accounts. And I told you about the data breaches with Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. Also with all these other corporations such as Best Buy, Target. Another proof that these accounts were real, and I saw this firsthand evidence, was Amazon, I had some other notes were saying Amazon and PayPal were in cahoots, but I tested out several accounts on Amazon with different routing numbers, putting in my social security number. Now, mind you, when you did an account, sometimes that your social security number didn't match up with a routing number, it would kick out. It wouldn't even go through. But for certain institutions, it went through. So there was some type of mechanism where they didn't have a filter to filter out when you would get the reversal, the code R34, they're saying that, oh, you're still popping up, I guess, as a where you don't have the I don't want to say the other word, but you don't have the proper status or whatever. So it can see that, but it still was allowing the transaction to go through because your social security number is linked to that routing number. It's linked to it. So it was so many different accounts, and some other people did a screen capture video to prove this, by the way. This wasn't, I did this privately when I figured this out, but some people mentioned, and they were going through on Amazon, I heard, till they were contacted and pressure was put on them or whatever. I hear there is a way that some people are utilizing this, but they are real secret that this is still working. By the way, I don't know what you have to have at this point, because it's like these people keep this information at the very top under lock and key. They're very secretive, but these are like loopholes they're using. But they'll want the rest of the general public to think this is fraudulent, by the way. What's fraudulent is how they've been using our social security number accounts behind our back. That's what's fraudulent, by the way. They didn't ask permission to block our access. And years ago, they used to go through without reversals. This is a fact. When you would use the letter that corresponds to the Federal Reserve Bank from the back of your social security card, also look up like on the dollar bills, which bank, look at that letters, see which bank that's out of, by the way. Like that one is E, which is says Virginia. By the way, now this has a different letter. Like this, it says B, which is like for New York, Federal Reserve Bank of New York, by the way. So there would be a letter on the back of your social security card if you had order a newer one, because some people didn't have that, whether it's in blue or red, it corresponds. If it has a letter, that's the bank that it corresponds to, by the way. So I'm just saying they didn't ask permission to block our access to our own accounts. This is very dirty. This is also a form of identity theft of intellectual property, by the way. Just saying. Okay, I mentioned the paralegal already. He has success discharging that. And there was another paralegal down in Texas that did a video. I saw he's still on YouTube. That was somebody else from the guy that I knew. I think I heard him on one of Mike O'Brien's conference calls at the time. And he has a different method of discharge. It's like the validation process, where it's contractual, by the way, where you're using like an administrative procedure, by the way. Number 11. I'm almost finished, guys. Just proving how these TDA accounts are real. The routing numbers provided are just used to facilitate a payment from your secret account because your SSN numbers are attached to the BC bond. It supports other bonds. It's a form of a registered security. It has security in the name. It's not just, it's a dual meaning, duality, Social Security. It's also a securities instrument. And it's still attached to the BC. The individual that showed me their QSIP information, they had a separate account for their birth certificate, and like there was a separate account for like the amount for their Social Security card, trading on the front and the back. The front is the, from what I understand, it's the Sestacue Trust. The part on the back, that's the Foreign Situs Trust. This is going worldwide on an international level. This is going to, what's the name of that country? Switzerland or Amsterdam, those countries like, you know, they're over in Germany, Amsterdam. What's that other country? I can't think of, not Stockholm. But this is being traded on, just keep in mind, this guy I met that years ago that used to work in Wall Street, he was telling me he was a facilitator, but he was sort of like similar to a broker, but he saw the screens light up on Wall Street, and he confirmed to me privately. He contacted me through my YouTube channel. He was actually the first YouTube subscriber I allowed to reach out to me, by the way. And, you know, we learned from each other throughout the years, whatnot. Big shout out to Tremaine, by the way, to confirm. You know, when I do mention real names, it's to show credibility, by the way. You know, we still were connecting the pieces. We didn't have all the information, but it shows how people from different walks of life can come together, research and study, you know, and that's how we cracked the code to some of this information. But he was sharing with me how this is on an international level. It goes all the way over around the world. And there's even a site where you can look up which companies, entities are trading your Social Security, that GMEI utility. That is real. Contrary to this gatekeeper saying that that wasn't real. And it tells you on the site that it's like a subsidiary of the DTC. You know, I hear that they're doing some type of book entry. I don't really understand that. That's above my level of knowledge, by the way, because I'm still learning, still studying. But just sharing this with you guys to confirm. Number 12, a friend of mine brought this up. He says people don't understand the IRS audits and locks up regular, average, everyday citizens for filing, just simply for filing tax returns when they decide to do an audit, too, sometimes, because they're using, you know, when you look at the statements, what does the IRS ask you? Like on the payment vouchers, it's a section to put your Social Security number on there. And it says, it'll say account number, by the way. So it's interchangeable, just saying. So that's it for you guys that I wanted to prove. I wanted to thank you guys for watching, for joining so far. Thank you for the thumbs up. Let's get the thumbs up even greater. If you did take the time and you like this video, you know, feel free to let me know. The reason I've disabled the comments in some of my previous videos, things get out of hand sometimes with the trolls, but I may leave it up for the time being or whatnot. But if not, I do appreciate you. Big shout out to everybody that continues to follow me. If you want to follow me, keep forgetting to let you guys know I do have another YouTube channel, like a backup. It's under a name called Mr. Cerebellum. That channel I'm going to gear towards, it's like a different channel versus the stuff I talk about here. It's like other issues, maybe more stuff related to my community, my culture, black people, my melanated people, whatever, over there. Just in my opinion, with solutions, maybe, you know, rants or things, or I just formulate some different ideas. I don't have a lot of videos over there yet, but I might start uploading more content just to give you guys a heads up where you guys can find me at. I'm also on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource. And I'm on Instagram now at Dorsey's Resource _2019 on Instagram. Also on minds.com, gab.ai, and of course on YouTube. Until next time, I'm your host, John Dorsey. Don't forget to thumbs up, rate, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, take care.